Happy Friday afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Fly Like an Eagle podcast. We are here every single Friday from 2 to 3:30, from 3:30 to 5:30. We have no idea, but there's no set time. We're just here on Fridays now, bringing you Eagles-related content and whatever it goes. We're all here to bring everyone together in these times of division or whatever. So we're here to make you happy. We're here to create content, and we have a lot to talk about when it comes to the Eagles football and Eagles culture or whatnot. So without further ado, on this shitty, rainy Friday afternoon, how's it going, Scotty?
I'm doing well, Kyle. I don't know exactly what division you're talking about. I don't know if it's the division between the weathermen that want sun versus rain, or it's the Eagles, honestly, because we definitely have a lot.
Yeah, I was definitely going there with the whole weatherman.
I know. I know there's a lot of like hate for the weather people, I should say, right now out there. Like people are like starting to get mad when they're wrong. I don't know if it's just because it's been raining so much, but
yeah,
I don't watch the weather. I have the weather app on my phone, but
they get paid hundreds and thousands of dollars a year to stand there on TV, look good, and predict everything wrong. Like I could do that,
Yeah,
Except
people are saying whatever new technology they use, they're like, this is bullshit. Like it's worse now. It's less accurate than using your ruler and sticking it outside up in the air.
Dude, last week I wanted to go to the beach. I was looking at the weather. It was 75 and clear. Now it's like 52, cloudy and rainy. I don't understand it.
Well, it's going to be the same way this weekend, so don't get your hopes up, right?
Well, Memorial Day is in 2 weekends. I'll be at LBI at Birds and Betty's, so let's hope it changes for the better. But anyway, let's get into our first topic, and it's about the offensive coordinators. We got Kellen Moore and we got Fangio. A lot of fans are up in air with this, 50-50 it seems like. But let's hear your thoughts and opinion. I'm going to let you go first on this one because I have a lot to say about these two offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators. So what do you think? Do you think they were good hires or do you think they were just
I definitely like both hires, especially after the way last season ended. And of course, last season we had two extremely young coordinators, which is funny because both of them are getting shit on like so much at this current moment. Like, oh, they were just like little babies. They were like 1 year old. Like that's basically like what I'm hearing. Like they were the number one problem. They caused like fucking Hurricane Katrina. Like that's seriously like what I'm hearing. And I agree with it to a certain extent. Obviously Kellen Moore coming from Dallas, like it or not, they did have a pretty successful scheme there in his tenure. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, they all put up great numbers. I'm not really worried about that part. I'm actually excited for the offense. Defensively, my only concern is Vic Fangio he has a ton of experience, which is what we need. But he is like an older school guy, which kind of makes me a little confused because the Eagles are such like cutting edge technology and like in front of the curve, but they're in love with someone that started coaching in like the 70s or 80s or whatever. I mean, he's been around this league for a long time.
Yeah, he was a high school defensive coordinator in 1980 with Dunmore High School. That's when he started.
Yeah, so that doesn't really make much sense to me. He also is not someone that likes to blitz, really, which I don't really care about as long as you get sacks. We saw Jonathan Gannon's scheme. He still got sacks and never blitzed. But overall, I do like both of them. I think these were the best two options for what was out there, in my opinion. And it's a huge upgrade over the other two, whose names are irrelevant, Sean Desai and Brian Johnson. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. What about you?
I mean, I'm not in love with them. At the end of the day, they are whatever hires to me. Kellen Moore's coming off that season with the Los Angeles Chargers where they lost Herbert. to injury, and they had to deal with Easton Stick as their quarterback for the rest of the year. They got blown out against the Las Vegas Raiders on Thursday Night Football. I think it was like 65 to like 21 or something. And Easton Stick looked absolutely terrible. Now, granted, he's not an NFL quarterback, but I guess you're taking a risk with him because he was the offensive coordinator for only 1 year with Los Angeles. The rest we know him from basically the Cowboys. He's only
Was he not there 2 years or just one?
No, 1 year, 2023. He got picked up from the Dallas Cowboys, and that's basically where we know him from. And the funny thing is about all of this is that he's only 35 years old, and he's an offensive coordinator in the NFL. He's been one for the last 4 years. So he obviously has brains, but in my honest opinion, I feel this was more of like a gamble pick based off of how we ran that offensive system in Dallas. I think it's more of a gamble of where if you have the right pieces, you think that he's going to do a good job. You're just rolling the dice at that point with Vic Fangio as well. You know, he's a good bat. They knew him for 2 weeks at the end of the 2022-2023 season when we went to the Super Bowl. And then he obviously went to the Miami Dolphins. But I think they're both gamble picks. I think they're picks based off of them liking them as people and liking them, what they saw from them in the division and what they saw with Vic Fangio the 2 weeks that they had him. So they're going back with them. They're their picks. They like them. Do I love them? No, not really. But I can't disagree with them based off of how Kellen Moore looked in Dallas and how much talent we have on the offensive side of the ball this year. So I'm not going to disagree with them. I don't love them. Don't hate them. They're whatever to me.
I totally agree. Did you get to watch any of their press conferences at all or no?
No, I kind of slept through them. Honestly, I'm not really interested in the whole offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator pressers. You know, it's all up to the head coach. But as we both know, Nick Sirianni is not doing anything. He's just sitting there to look pretty or stupid or however.
Yeah, that's kind of like why I think this year it's going to be reading in between the lines a lot with the offensive and defensive coordinators because Vic's in charge of the defense. We're bringing in Kellen's offense. So, like, you know, those are two important people, I would say.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
the only thing of note was then people in the comments and YouTube were Kellen Moore mentioned process 83 times in 7 minutes. So it was like take a shot every time he said process. I just obviously attribute that to some nerves and like whatever. I also think, you know, he's obviously Philly's its own beast. He's from fucking Washington State, which is completely different than Philly.
Oh yeah,
also,
it's like another world.
Even the Dallas media isn't Philly. Obviously we know Dallas media will like kiss your ass so much if you're doing well. Just so like oil, like water and vinegar, whatever.
I mean, they still think Dak Prescott's a good quarterback, you know, when he chokes every single year in the playoffs. And we all know it's coming. It's like if somebody offered to give me $100 and I gave them odds on the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl next year, I'd be like, all right, I'll take your $100. You know, it's that easy.
They still haven't re-signed or restructured his deal or whatever the hell needs to be done there. And then moving on to Vic again. Vic gave, because I did watch a little bit of both. Came off like very old school, very like close to the vest. You know, he's not really going to be out here talking about his scheme or their plan or what they really plan to do. The only thing that he did say that I thought was interesting that, you know, the biggest challenge that we face is, you know, these defensive players have had like 3 different coordinators in 3 different years because you had Jonathan Gannon, then you had Sean DeSean and Matt Patricia in the same year. So that's the only thing. So it's interesting that someone of his caliber and longevity admitted that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work to do, but there's a lot of talent. So there really is no excuses from me.
The only thing that bothers me with Vic Fangio is that he came in for those 2 weeks and the 1 week before the Super Bowl. And after he left, we actually got worse. When Jonathan Gannon had this team rolling, and then all of a sudden you take advice from Vic Fangio, who you're going to replace, because they know that Jonathan Gannon's probably gone, so they're going to replace him, and we just looked horrible in the Super Bowl. So that's the only problem that I have with the hire. But other than that, listen, I'm not the GM. I'm not gonna sit back and pretend to know
Well,
what's going on.
honestly, that's probably where they made another mistake because if they had Jonathan Gannon and Vic Fangio like talking to the defense, like again, that's two different fucking heads. Like, stop. Needs to be
Yeah,
one person. So maybe that could be the contribute of the downfall. Who knows,
it
right?
could be. They're always in their own heads for whatever reason, but that's the Philadelphia Eagles.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we have a very, very interesting next topic. I don't know if a lot of you are aware, but our old friends, DeSean Jackson and LeSean McCoy, Eagles legends, they started a new podcast recently. I don't know how, like, if it was like a couple weeks ago, but they finally are starting to talk about their experience with the Eagles. I believe the podcast is called like 1025 or 2510. It's on YouTube, something like
Whatever
that.
the hell it's called.
And basically, they torched Chip Kelly. And I watched this whole thing in its entirety. It's about 50 minutes. You guys should definitely check it out after our show if you're interested. And the Eagles players, like there's been like tidbits and articles and some interviews here and there about how Chip was and what happened during 2013 to 2015. But this is the first time I recall that it's just two homegrown players, no other interviewer, kind of just like a natural locker room hanging out vibe, actually telling their truth about what they experienced. And a lot of things were interesting. Come with some of the main points that I want you to react to, Kyle. First off, was which we have heard this before, but the fact that it's been 11 years and they're still saying this. He was uncomfortable around black players. I added that Chip Kelly did not want anyone to wear black socks at any time, only white socks. And then they actually called Jason Peters at the end of the video. And JP said he fucked us out of 2 Super Bowls because he didn't know how to deal with star players.
Yeah. I mean,
What's
well,
your
first things first.
reaction?
First things first. I got to put the banner at the bottom. Was Chip Kelly a bad person? Question mark. So basically, we're gonna ask this question right now. Well, he was 20. What was he? 21 and no, 26 and 21 as a Philadelphia Eagles head coach. Got us to the playoffs in his first year with Nick Foles. 27 and 2, the ratio, touchdown and interception. That was a fun season to watch. I wouldn't say it was a great season, but it was a fun season. I feel like at the end of the day, you had to get rid of him, and it actually helped us out to get a Super Bowl. But going off of what D-Jax and LeSean McCoy said, I just think they're salty at the end of the day. You know, the whole white and black sock thing is a little weird. I'll agree with that. The whole re-signing Riley Cooper when he said what he said at the country concert was a little weird. I agree with that 110%. But at the end of the day, you know, we were never winning a Super Bowl with those two players. Like, I don't think people will understand that. They were two really dynamic players. But if you're trying to get a winning culture, and this is where I try to take side with Chip Kelly a little bit, if you're trying to create a winning culture, which he was never going to do with his system because it was too fast for the NFL, the players were getting older. You can't keep up with college players when it comes to that speed of the game. I completely understand he had to go in that retrospect, but if you're trying to create a winning culture and do things your way, you can't have me players on your team. And, you know, DeSean Jackson, as much as I loved him, he was kind of a me player. LeSean McCoy, as much as I loved him, he was kind of a me player. You have to play
me player or star player.
They're both the same thing in my opinion. Now, there's two dynamics in.
Well, you can never have too many star players. So,
well, there's star players that make the team better because their play on the field, and there's star players that highlight themselves based off personality and their play alone, not necessarily making the team better. You know, so there's two different star athletes, you know, so you have to look at both of them and say, were DeSean Jackson and LeSean McCoy both good enough to put their personality as a side and make the team better to where
this is the NFL. You're telling me that Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce both aren't me star players. Like, it's the coach's job to like balance the personalities and the locker room and the egos. Like, do you not agree with that?
I mean, Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes get a pass from me because they
Are they
have.
me? Are they me players?
Um, no, I don't think
Oh
so.
my god.
I don't think so. I really don't think so. And if they are, I have a problem seeing it because how they play on the field. Like, so I mean, Patrick Mahomes, I would take Patrick Mahomes over Jalen Hurts any day of the week. I'm sorry. I would.
Who
Travis
wouldn't?
Kelsey, I would take over
He won 3 Super Bowls, of course.
Travis Kelsey, I would take over Dallas Goddard. I would put up with the Taylor Swift nonsense any day of the week to have Travis Kelsey.
Okay,
Sorry.
they'll just say sorry. Those are like the two most obvious,
Yeah.
obvious things. All right, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little confused by your answer, so I'm gonna jump in here. The only thing that I agree and what I was saying that about that team's talent, they didn't have a quarterback. You had an injured, aging Mike Vick and an inconsistent regular season Nick Foles, and they still went 10-6 with that roster. So if they had a young quarterback, they maybe could have been really successful. They just they didn't have a top 10 quarterback pick during that time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, getting to actually what went down and what happened. The biggest thing here is these players, in my opinion, they were going from Andy Reid to Chip Kelly, and those are two completely different people.
Yep.
Again, Andy Reid was like that fun-loving, make anything work. He was very relatable to the players. He created a safe environment where they could speak their voice, give their opinion, give their input. We still see it today with Travis, Patrick Mahomes, so on and so forth. Like, these people are not afraid to say whatever in an interview, on a podcast, in the media. It's not going to be held against them. Things that the Eagles players did. And I don't really have a lot of respect for Chip with this because he would make decisions. Obviously, if you heard the podcast, you can understand exactly what I'm talking about. He would make decisions and then have one of his minions come and tell the players. Like, he couldn't say anything to their face. He wouldn't even consult or get their opinion before making a decision.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of fucked up. And again, Andy Reid was the exact opposite of that. So they're taking it a little bit more personal too because of that. I just think there was a lot of, dictatorship vibes. He wanted all the control over the way they slept, the way they eat. Can't do this, can't do that. He wanted no curse words during music, during practice. Like, this is football, dude. Like, this is the NFL. He also, I don't know if you saw this, but he said there's going to be no starters. No one's a starter. I don't care if you're an all-pro, Pro Bowl, so basically, the practice squad and the starter had to compete for the starting job, which was
it's
not the
like
NFL.
It's like in high school. I had a coach in high school, a head coach actually, where he said everyone was varsity. He put JV and varsity together. Although you knew that there were better players than other, he would never separate a group because that's
high school. High school. Yeah, that doesn't work in NFL.
Of course it doesn't, but I get the culture. Like, you don't want to make anyone feel bad, although there are better players.
But you're making the star players feel bad or like inferior.
Yeah,
like
then in a way, you don't think that makes them want to work harder. Like, the truth,
they feel disrespected.
Well, of course, it's disrespect, but to be not disrespected and earn
they've
respect,
already proved themselves for like 5 years in the league. They were a rookie. Another thing was, we know Chip loved the Oregon players. Kiko Alonso for Shady McCoy, and a lot of these players from Oregon, like, favoritism was shown. Basically, they're not even NFL players. He's just giving them a shot because they're from Oregon. It was just a lot. And also, I there was a tidbit that he tried to trade Brandon Graham as well, and then Lurie had to shut it down. That was the last straw.
Yeah, I think that was the beginning of the end of Chip Kelly, because what Jeffrey Lurie did was he gave him the power he wanted. But when he was making way too many moves and he stepped in, he was like, listen, this is probably going to last a year, and that's all it did. he was already over him at that point because he didn't really want to get rid of LeSean McCoy. He just didn't want to lose Chip Kelly, the head coach. He wanted to keep Chip Kelly, the head coach, but giving him the GM power, it's something that came with the brand of Chip Kelly, and he would have walked if he didn't give him that power. So, I think he had enough after he got back Kiko Alonso and wanted to get rid of Brandon Graham. So Jeffrey Lurie, in essence, kind of saved this team at that point, yes.
I agree. He had to take back over his franchise. That's what we all heard around that time. And the last thing I do want to touch on is the uncomfortability around the black players. If you can't be yourself, you can't be a teacher, a coach, a leader, just be communicative with the entire team. That's a problem. And we know the NFL is like 80% black. Like, you've been a football coach your whole life. I don't care what part of the country you're from. So, they basically were saying that he felt uncomfortable with the way they dress, what kind of music they listen to, the way that, that they just speak or don't, like, I don't know, like, in a locker room, on a football team, like, you don't want to, even if you're this old school white guy that's like a grandpop or just like corny or country as hell, like, you still don't want to come off as like awkward, I guess is the right way to put it. Like, you can still just be that corny white guy or like whatever, you know what I mean? But don't act differently or have your guard up around a certain race, especially when this race are the most talented players, the majority race on the team. Like, so that's just very unfortunate to hear. And, that's why he's not in the league anymore. Clearly, that's all. That explains it perfectly for me.
Well, that also goes back to what I was saying maybe a couple weeks ago, 3-4 weeks ago, actually, about the athletes getting respect for a coach as well, because a coach makes way less than they do. Those players make a lot more money than a head coach does. And when you're making more money and you feel like someone's disrespecting you, that's when an avalanche starts to happen, unfortunately, because then they start listening to what you're saying, and then it's just a whole clusterfuck. So, yes, I do agree that, they feel some type of way about Chip Kelly because of how he treated them and how he just straight up released DeSean Jackson and traded LeSean McCoy to the Buffalo Bills for a linebacker who literally just tore his ACL as a rookie. I get all of that, and they're probably never going to let it go because they did like being Philadelphia Eagles, and they took it to heart. At the end of the day, listen, I can't disagree with either side. I don't have a side to pull on this one because Chip Kelly wasn't a horrible coach here. He was just hated for how he handled situations. So I can't pick a side in this one. I get both sides of it, and that's pretty much all I'm going to say on that one.
Yeah, the only thing that's, a little contradictory, of course, we didn't even touch on the gang allegations, that whole thing with DeSean and Chip and how that was kind of blown out of proportion. And DeSean said it followed his entire career. Like, he was known for that, like in NFL circles, for better or for worse. And, he had a story where, he wasn't involved. He was just picking up his friend from like a courthouse. There's a whole, you guys listen to the podcast for sure to get the full story. And then the last thing that I want to touch on is, I don't know, like Chip the coach, like, again, it was good for what it was in 2013, but like we said, it wasn't really sustainable in the long run, especially just like how much you wanted the defense on the field with fast-paced offense. And I think it's just, that's what I was gonna say about Chip is, I don't know if you remember, like, there was some players that he liked, or because I don't know if you remember, there's some video of him like jumping on Jason Peters' back and going into the locker room or end zone. Yeah. And then we know he gave Darren Sproles, I think we'd always call him like Sprolesy, like he gave him that like nickname. So I don't know. I would love to hear more people's opinions. I know he made Mike Vick cry before, like in a quarterback competition. So some of this shit, it's like, it's giving like Urban Meyer, Would you agree with that? It's giving college authority, like power
Well,
hungry, old school white man to me.
well, he made him cry at the end of the day because he was ready to hang the reins over to Nick Foles, who was much slower than him, and he knew him from his days at Arizona since he played there for 3 years, and he knew what he had in him. And that's the one thing I respect about Chip Kelly is that he knew that Nick Foles was a dog. Like he knew that
So
he had
that's why he traded him for Sam Bradford, right?
Yeah, that's why he traded him for Sam Bradford. Yeah,
Yeah, he
exactly.
knew that's a good. Why did he do
Yeah,
that?
honestly, I think that was more along the lines of Sam Bradford being the number one pick overall, and that Nick Foles was injury prone. I think that's the reason why he traded him away. But he knew what he had in Nick Foles at first, at least, because he saw him at Arizona and he knew he had something good there. Plus,
No, you
Michael
know
Vick
what it
was
was? You know what it
what?
was? It was Foles got too much credit. My ego's so big, I can win with anyone. I know Sam Bradford, and we're trading you because everyone's replaceable.
Yeah, and plus Nick Foles
That's
was kind of injured.
exactly that's who I think he is because he was his system, my way or the highway. It was almost worse than Bill Belichick, in my opinion, because Bill Belichick is not going to trade Gronk, never traded Tom Brady. He never traded core pieces of the defense, Teddy Bruschi, Willie McGinnis,
Yeah,
like all them players. Like he knew who he could pick on or fuck with. I'll say that, fuck with. But it's not like it was the biggest one was Malcolm Butler.
uh-huh.
But like again, he wasn't fucking with the top stars. Yeah, he was hard on Brady, but let's be real, he was never going to release or cut a Tom Brady. Like,
No.
so honestly, like Chip didn't care. Again, we heard he was going to trade BG. He traded the LeSean McCoy, the number one Eagles rusher in history, DeSean Jackson, who was, still one of our best wide receivers ever in Eagles history, definitely most
Yeah.
memorable. Jeremy Maclin left to go to
Same
Kansas
man.
City. So yeah, this was just it was a shit storm. It needed to end. I'm glad it did. Again, the only thing in hindsight, like you said, we still ended up with the Super Bowl. So everything
Yep.
kind of happened for a reason. But I'm gonna end with that team is very romanticized. I think that's a good word to use. But
Mhm.
again, they didn't have a Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Matthew Stafford. I would even say a Kirk Cousins level quarterback that, I think they could have done a lot more with one of those guys. Would you agree? I know you love Nick Foles, but he was great 2013, 2014 still decent and consistent. But, we know what happened with Foles with the Rams the following year. So, where do you stand on that with the quarterback?
I just think you're being unfair to Nick Foles. I think Nick Foles was meant to play in Philadelphia, which is a weird thing to say about athletes because it seems like no one could play in Philadelphia. So that was the weird dynamic with Nick Foles is he always won here. No matter what he did, he just always won
So,
here.
he wasn't given a chance, basically.
Correct. And that's why he has a statue and Carson Wentz doesn't. But let's go to Anthony Serrano's take. Chip Kelly was extremely arrogant and was not meant to coach in the NFL and treated our players very poor. But I'm not so sure that we would have won the Super Bowl with the core that was kept together. And I agree with that. I feel like with Shady and Djax, we would have never won anything. And that's the truth, in my honest opinion. But I guess we'll never know at the end of the day. But that's
But
a
I
good take.
guess you can compare those because you're saying they're me players. You can compare them to Terrell Owens, right? Basically.
Oh, Terrell Owens was phenomenal.
So you're saying he wasn't a me
Oh,
player.
Terrell Owens is one of the more me players of all time, but Terrell Owens had 109 yards catching on 1 foot in the Super Bowl and kept us in that game. That's the dynamic of where he's a me player, but he gets the job done. DeSean Jackson and LeSean McCoy, they
McCoy
were
did.
me players.
McCoy didn't. They didn't get the job done for you.
Not to that level, no. And I
Okay.
thought they had tremendous stats throughout their career for what they were, but he wasn't a player that makes your team better like that. I'll tell you a player who makes your team better, and he might have a personality issue. AJ Brown. You take AJ Brown off this team, we're not as good. And that's just the fact of the matter. If you put DeSean Jackson in place of AJ Brown, are we the same team? No, we're not. So that just goes to show you there's levels to having a dynamic player with a personality issue. I'll take an AJ Brown. I'll take a Terrell Owens because they're worth the risk at the end of the day because they're so good. And DeSean Jackson, LeSean McCoy, I'd be okay getting rid of them and replacing them with someone close to the level without the personality issue to make it a winning culture. And that's the point I'm trying to make.
I agree with some of the things that you said. We can get to Anthony's comment in a second because that is true. It definitely was on the podcast. I guess I'm a little surprised that you hold them, AJ and Owen, so much higher than McCoy and DeSean. Because they were both game changers. I mean, DeSean with the punt return, and he's probably the fastest player we've ever seen here going over the top. And then McCoy, you think of the snow game with the Lions, like he took over and won that game for us. It was insane. So I don't know. I mean, we'll never know, but I think they were both extremely talented. And I don't know. It's hard to. If they would have stayed here for their entire career and played 10 to 12 years, it's hard to not think that they would have been Hall of Famers or. Look how popular they still are, and they were only here for like 5 or 6 years.
Yep.
So I don't know. We'll never know. I also think that they have matured a lot compared to when they were younger. Because again, I know some stories about when they were both younger. It doesn't really fit their agenda, but I'm not going to hold it against them for being immature from like 22 to 25 years old. But yeah, they're different people now. So we didn't get to see that mature player. We got to see the more brash, young, make mistakes. It's not my fault. Like I do this well. So yeah.
Yeah, and then going back to what Anthony said, Rex Ryan said it was the fastest and easiest trade he's ever made in his life. I mean, yeah, in hindsight it was, but at the end of the day, Chip did what he did. And that's all there is to it.
I would agree. It's just funny to see the way that people would talk. But yeah, I mean, Kiko Alonso was a defensive rookie of the year, I think, one season, and you're trading him for the all-time leading Eagles running back.
Well, not only that, he tore his ACL that year.
So. I know, but the only thing you could say is, well, actually, running back was more valued at that time, if you remember, because Adrian Peterson won MVP in 2012. Like,
yeah, but that was 18.
I'm just saying, like, it was like, would a running back ever win MVP today? I mean, Christian McCaffrey probably should have won, but he didn't.
Yeah, so. No, you just answered your own question. Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley on this team might win MVP, so you never know.
We'll see about that, sure.
Yeah, we will see about that. Jordan Dobbins says, Chip wanted own control of power. He wanted to bring in his Oregon staff to the team, which did not work. His fast-paced offense is not working. I mean, yes. I mean, Jordan, you nailed it on the head, especially when the offense is on the field for 18 minutes and the defense is on the field for the rest. These players are getting older. They hated being on the field. The defense had to work hardcore, and that's why it ultimately didn't work with Chip Kelly here. So I agree with that.
He didn't want to compromise at all. He wanted to bring Oregon here. Like I said, the Philadelphia Ducks. Like, you're not going to win that way. It's not, you can't recreate something identical and bring in everyone and just think that you have all the answers. I don't need anyone else. It's all me. Like, we know that doesn't work, especially in the NFL. Like, it's a collaborative effort. He did bring in Billy Davis, and I think it was Pat. Was it Pat Shurmur was his offensive coordinator?
Yeah.
So he
like I thought Pat Shurmur was going to take over as head coach when he left.
Like be hired full time.
Yeah.
It's not really like a Howie or not a Howie. It's not a Jeffrey move, I guess.
When I thought the beginning of the downfall with Chip Kelly was. You remember when we were on Sunday Night Football for like 5 times a year, and they had that clock that said the Eagles offense, and they saw how fast the offense would move. When we were down by like 30, they would still have the clock up. And that's when I'm like, yeah, this isn't really sitting well with me anymore when we're getting our ass kicked and we still have the fastest offense on the field. It's not really sitting well with me anymore. So I think that's when Jeffrey Lurie was kind of embarrassed and he kind of thought about that.
Yeah, for me, like when we did our top 5 worst games last month, that was that Lions Thanksgiving game. That's when I knew it was over. Like that's when I felt the most embarrassed and just over it. Like,
hey, but then we beat the Patriots.
Some false hope. It was a nice Sunday, a nice little gift after our Thanksgiving was ruined. But yeah, that was
the week after Tom Brady lost to Brock Osweiler in Denver in the snow. I remember that. A crazy 2 weeks for them because they started out the season undefeated.
Is my audio okay and like my picture or no?
Yeah,
is it a little bit better
fine now. It was pretty busted earlier, but it's pretty good now.
Okay, cool. All right, well, we are gonna wrap. Anything else you want to wrap up before we get back to modern times? Oh yeah, that's a good point. That was the best thing that Chip did was Jeff Stoutland.
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird that they have opposite personalities, in my opinion.
Didn't they trade for Sam Bradford when you had Mike Vick? Yeah, we did. We actually traded Nick Foles away for Sam Bradford, who won us the Super Bowl. Another one from Anthony. There's clearly a lot of tension between Lurie and Chip during the 2015 season because Lurie didn't even allow Chip to finish the season. Right after the Skins beat them and eliminated us, he was gone. I was actually at that Washington Redskins game at the time. They were the Redskins. I was actually at that game. And before the game, me and my buddy, we ran into Dave Spadaro. And Dave Spadaro, he always plays a character. Like he sucks the cock of the Philadelphia Eagles because he works for them. And right before the game,
I mean, who wouldn't, right? Who wouldn't?
Yeah, I mean, my buddy knew my buddy knew Spuds personally, so he went up to him, and right before the game, we actually had a good feeling because we were at home. We wanted to get into the playoffs. It was one of those nights, and then all of a sudden, he goes up to Spuds and he's like, "How are you feeling about tonight?" And off the record, he was like, "Dude, we're gonna get our ass kicked. Nobody likes Chip Kelly whatsoever." And once he said that, our hopes just went right down the drain. It's like I wish reporters were this honest all the time because that was such a dagger in my heart, and we got killed by like 20 points, I think.
Actually, no, I think we only lost by a field goal. It was a Saturday game.
Oh,
you're talking about 15. I was thinking about 14.
No, 15.
Okay, and I know.
I think it was the Saturday night game right before Christmas, or right after Christmas.
Yeah, now I remember. I know there was also an issue with the Christmas party, something along those lines. You remember that?
Yeah, yes. I don't think he came to Jeffrey Lurie's Christmas party. I think he was pretty disrespectful.
Well, they wanted a separate one that he wasn't invited to, something along those lines.
Yeah, but when Spud said that, you knew it was done.
And I remember we got blown out by the Cardinals the week before, even though there was like some false hope around that time, only because they beat the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, when DeMarco Murray dropped that ball and D'Angelo Fall scored off of it, we knew Chip Kelly was done. Yeah, I know.
I mean, probably when they signed DeMarco Murray, he sealed his fate, right?
DeMarco Murray didn't fit his system at all. I don't know why we signed him. Like, he's a north-south runner. He's not an east-west, and Shady was an east-west guy, and you replaced an east-west guy with a north-south runner.
Yeah, the logic behind that was, DeMarco Murray and Sam Bradford being so close, played in college together. I think that's what he thought, but, I mean, doesn't really matter if they don't fit the scheme just because they're friends. I mean,
yeah.
What? Right.
He kept running the jet sweep with DeMarco Murray. It was the funniest shit ever.
I got another comment from Joe.
Mm-hmm. Chip Kelly's offense didn't work on Madden either. Bradford was a threat on the RPO. It wasn't a threat on the RPO. Last day he had knee cartilage and was drafted.
He's one of the worst running quarterbacks I've ever seen. He was bad. Bradford? it's like, oh my god, I feel like he's gonna get destroyed. Like he's gonna get lit up.
He's one of the
Lit
worst
up.
quarterbacks I've ever seen.
He was accurate. That was the only thing he had going for him. But like Nick Foles, Tom Brady, and Peyton Manning, I would say actually ran better than Sam Bradford somehow.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Bradford was what he was. I was actually scared that we were going into the season with Sam Bradford and Carson Wentz as our third string quarterback. Then all of a sudden, I think Jeffrey Lurie told Howie Roseman, he's like, nope, we're not doing this.
Well, that was a great trade getting, well, I think they got a first and a fourth round pick.
From Minnesota,
yeah. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like shocking.
I mean, come on, Speed. You don't really believe that. Mark Sanchez was a franchise quarterback. Come on.
No, but like those are his best 2 games ever.
Yeah, I mean Monday Night Football in 2014.
Were you at that game? I was actually at that Panthers game.
I was there. I was at that one.
Didn't it start off bad and they came back, or
No, it was never bad because I remember Mark Sanchez went to Geno's after the game and it was like 31-7. Like it wasn't even close. I could look that up actually.
I'm thinking they might have put up like 45. I mean like 45-21.
And then
that Dallas Thanksgiving game was like, that's such a great memory. Obviously it's shattered because they just collapsed afterwards. Mm-hmm. But that was such a fun day to beat the Cowboys. 35-21. Yeah, it was
45-21.
Oh, I actually had the exact score. Cool.
Yep.
But yeah, that Dallas game was fun for sure.
I hate using this term to evaluate players, but Bradford legit had nervous, negative aura. Yeah, I mean he
more like scared to me. He was scared.
Yeah, he definitely looked like a deer in the headlights, and I didn't want an Eli Manning on this team. I really didn't.
And I think that's because he was scared to get hurt again.
Mm-hmm.
Which I mean, you can't really blame him. Like I think he suffered a knee injury like 2 seasons in a row. Did he tear his ACL or MCL, something along those lines?
Yeah.
And, you know, he kept getting paid. They kept paying him. So who wouldn't take the money? But he's definitely traumatized.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a big one from Speed right here. Doug Peterson admitted that he watched 2013 Chip Kelly tape for the Super Bowl run. You know, because the RPO he did with perfection. And that's the season where Nick Foles had the 27-2 season. So going back to that was actually pretty smart.
Yeah, I mean they had successful games. The Raiders game comes to mind. Remember when they blew out the Bears on Sunday Night Football that year? So yeah, Chip definitely had some good ideas. Again, it was his personality and his dictatorship
that killed him. Yeah,
absolutely.
But anything else to say about this whole Chip Kelly? Is he a bad person or not?
No, but it looks like people definitely still are curious about it based on the comments that we got, because it's kind of like a weird like blimp in Eagles history. It just doesn't make any sense compared to everything else that Lurie at least has done, you know?
Right. And yeah.
And he learned his lesson. The last thing that I will say about Chip Kelly is that I don't know which one it was, but he definitely he lost the locker room at the end of 2015 apparently. And they said that, you know, the players didn't quit, but they weren't going to run through a wall for him. And that's another reason why he had to go. Well, that kind of makes me nervous because did the players not quit last season with Nick Sirianni? Like, it's the same thing. It's really the same. Like that 2014 collapse kind of reminds you of last year, does it not? Not like last year was worse, but it's like a little concerning for sure.
Well, that's why I feel like a lot of Eagles fans are kind of trying to throw last season under the rug because of the year before we had so much success. But the thing that worries me is how they quit last year, because I'm not even going to say that I think they quit. Oh, they definitely quit 110%.
We're going to talk about that in a second. Well, actually, let's just go into that right now. It's a great segue because I saw an interview with Kenny Gainwell. I think it was on X and YouTube earlier this week. I think he was getting interviewed by someone he went to college with.
You're the only person I know that called X.
That what?
You're the only person I know that calls it X.
Twitter, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so this is what Kenny Gainwell had to say, and this is very telling.
Mhm.
On the collapse last year. I think it was a connection piece. Teams like KC are very well connected, upstairs and downstairs, front office and locker room. When you have a connection, everything just clicks. But when you get guys that aren't talking to each other, you never know what's going on.
Mhm.
So that is really concerning. And obviously, everyone's mind goes to Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown.
Yep.
And I don't know. It's really a mystery. Like, why wouldn't they be talking to each other? First, we thought it was about that one incident with not getting the ball, which I don't know. Like, why would that make you stop talking to someone? And then the contract, I think there's something deeper here that we still don't know about because I don't know. Like, okay, he wasn't getting the ball, even though he had that 7 or 6 game run where
Mhm.
the 150 yards or whatever it was.
Yep.
Well, and then like I don't know. Do you agree that it's more that something we don't know about?
No, I think it's the team just got gassed and there's excuses everywhere. They were in a gauntlet. They played a lot of tough teams.
You don't give any merit to what Kenny Gainwell said. You don't think there's any truth to it?
I don't want to take anything that Kenny Gainwell says because number one, he's not that good of a player. Number two, I'd rather hear it from someone of note. So I don't know. I mean,
Oh, well, they're not gonna say I don't know.
of
Well,
course not. Now, if they did say something, I'd respect it. But at the end of the day, it's like I just feel like they were gassed. I think they were badly hurt. I feel like the games that they lost killed their psyche. The whole 49er thing, how they came into our barn and kicked the shit out of us. We had to go to Dallas across the country where we already beat Dallas, so they had blood on their hands. They wanted to kill us. Then we go to Seattle where we never freaking win, like ever, and we lost a last second touchdown to Drew Lock. So I mean, yeah, I feel like the
yeah,
way the
but how
season
do you
ended,
go from being the best team in the league
they
to
weren't.
the worst
They
team?
weren't. They weren't. I mean, it was all. It was like there. It was like the Pittsburgh Steelers of 4 years ago. They started out 11-0. Everyone knew that they weren't that good. Me and you were watching the
But they
games,
have, but
and
they had the talent to be, especially on offense.
yeah, I mean, to an extent, I feel like last year they were still hurt from the Super Bowl in a way. So they started off slow every single game for a reason. I don't know what it was, coaching or whatnot. They just never got into that rhythm, and a lot of the teams that they played it benefited them because they were better than those teams. But when you started playing the thick of the schedule, now granted we beat Kansas City and the Bills, which I still don't know how we won those games, but you beat those two teams, and then you get your ass kicked against San Fran, and at that point they just gave up because they knew down the road they were hurting. They had a long way to go. They weren't getting a home field anymore, so they had to play the wild card, the divisional, the championship game, then the Super Bowl. They were gassed, and they weren't.
Okay, but
They didn't.
I think being gassed and quitting are like two
Mhm.
different teams because like quitting to me is like a locker room culture
Yeah,
issue, and then gas is just like you're physically drained.
I think they were both in a way.
I would agree with that, but
Yeah,
again, I don't think like why would Kenny Gainwell make that up? And
because he
we
has
know
nothing
now
to
that
lose.
but we know now that there was an issue, but like AJ Brown didn't speak to the media for a reason.
Mhm.
Um, so I do think some of it's true. I really, really do. It also explains why AJ wasn't used as much as he should have been late in the season after he like was used so much. Again, he went on that 7 game streak, and he's the reason why we won a lot of those games. So yeah, I think there's still a mystery surrounding that. We can only hope that it's fixed with the new contract for him and Hurts, saying that he really wants to be the main leader on the team now and have some consistency.
Mhm.
It's just that is a little concerning, and what would make them not speak for God knows how long? because that doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, this guy named Craig Carton, who's on the Carton show, said that it was a problem within the locker room with AJ and Jalen Hurts, I feel, because there was something going on, like he was trying to get with his sister or whatnot. And I don't know how much I believe that, but that's a news reporter.
Wait, who get with who? Because honestly, I would love to actually find that, but like something personal like that would
it was like personal. Yeah. So it's like if that were true, then I can understand.
Who wanted whose sister?
I don't know. I got to look up the article, but it was something along the lines of there was an argument and there was like tension because someone wanted to get with someone's sister. Let me look it up.
That would make a little bit more sense to me for sure. I mean, obviously that's annoying as hell and you shouldn't bring that in the workplace, but that would make more sense to me than that he didn't get the ball. Like, why would you not talk for 8 weeks because of that?
Yeah, it was on the New York Post and everything. He said mysterious Eagles drama led to Eagles collapse. And this was in February, actually, from the Craig Carton
show. And I never
show.
even heard about that. So I don't know, like, why that wasn't talked about more. Have you heard anything, like any Eagles fans or any pundit, anyone on Twitter even ever tweet about that or no?
No, I after the story kind of died out, but I remember when this came out, and I'm looking at the article right now, and basically people were denying it. And I guess you can say that it was debunked since AJ Brown signed the long-term contract, because if something really did go on, he's not going to want to stay around Jalen Hurts.
So, well, I mean, it's not like they can't kiss and make up, right?
Work it out, yeah.
So, but yeah, I thought that was very interesting. Again, something clearly happened in the locker room. We've heard so many different stories now. Are we ever going to get the truth? Maybe in 11 years, just like we got the truth about Chip Kelly. Yep. The main concern for us as fans and for that team is to figure out what the fuck happened, get it fixed, make sure it doesn't happen again. And I still haven't heard that answer from anyone. They've said that they were disappointed how last season ended, especially Howie. But I want the head coach to say, and I told you this from our first ever episode, last year was unacceptable, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure it doesn't happen again. And he still has not said that.
No, he hasn't.
I don't get it.
And Anthony says the only question or concern I had is when they quit on Sirianni, did they quit on Johnson or DeSean? Clearly, AJ Brown and Smitty were fed up with play calling, and DeSean got demoted after the Cowboys game unexpectedly. So, I mean, yeah, I don't think the coordinators were helping anything. I feel like
they sucked. They really did suck.
Yeah, I was being nice. They were garbage. But I just feel like it's a wrong time to demote DeSean and then bring in Matt Patricia when they run two completely different defensive schemes, and especially going into Seattle, and it just didn't help anything. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it was just a big clusterfuck at the end of the year, and we're on to this year, 3 months away. So,
and then as far as the offense goes, well, why didn't Sirianni just take over?
Because he's a big nothing burger. Like, there's nothing to him. We learned this. He's a puppet. He's a yes man. He says weird things on the mic.
He should have took over play calling then, just like how they did in Matt Patricia. Like, why not?
Yeah, it would have been even worse.
You think?
Yeah, he would have been like a big pot of flowers. He'd be like, yeah, run this play. And then people would have laughed at him. Like, it would have been a joke. But I don't know. I mean, Nick Sirianni, the jury's out on him, but he is a puppet at the end of the day.
And the issue also is, before we get to Eagle Speed, if they're good again this year, we know Kellen Moore is going to get a head coaching job, and we're going to need another coordinator. So, like,
there you go.
I don't know. I guess, like, we're all in on this season, hopefully, which I'm fine with. I want to.
Yeah, I mean, we could literally lose in the divisional round and lose Kellen Moore. I mean, that's how much of a commodity he is, because he's only 35 years old. He's been at 2 of the prime offensive coordinator spots already with Dallas and with Justin Herbert. So
if he'll be here, he'll be working with Hurts,
a good job here and we get far, he's going to be a head coach next year. And then we're in a never-ending cycle of bullshit. except for Vic Fangio because no one wants him as a head coach. So that's good.
And yeah, we already know that Kellen Moore has gotten interviews. He actually interviewed here in 2021.
Yeah,
We
and
chose
he's only
Sirianni.
35. So who doesn't want a head coach that could be dominant in NFL at only 35 years old? Like, that would be great.
And the reality is he is going to be a head coach. I don't see him not being a head coach. He's going to get a shot. He definitely is.
Unless they're planning on promoting Kellen Moore to head coach. And that's a different story.
Why wouldn't they have just done that?
I think they're giving Sirianni the benefit of the doubt since he had us at 10-1 last year and he had us in the Super Bowl the year before. I think that's why they're doing that. But they're bringing in Kellen Moore if shit hits the fan, and they're going to promote him.
It's just weird because if the offense is good, the shit's not going to hit the fan. Sirianni looks fine because he's winning.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
And if they lose and collapse, well, why would they promote Kellen Moore? So that's a little weird.
Well, the offense is going to look good regardless next year, in my opinion. We have too much talent.
Exactly.
Way too much talent.
So Sirianni's going to stay then.
Or they're going to see through Sirianni and promote Kellen Moore regardless.
I don't know. That'd be a lot because if you make the playoffs 4 straight years, they couldn't justify, it's just weird. Like, I don't know. They're in a weird position.
Yep.
This. Any more comments?
Yeah, we actually have a lot. We have some from Facebook, some from YouTube. Offensive problems were no checkdowns. I mean, I don't like the check down, honestly. I really don't. I prefer to get it more out in the open. But yeah, you're right. We didn't have many checkdowns at all.
Yeah, well, do a check down on 3rd and 2. not a 20-yard play, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the Arizona game. I think we ran it to Smitty, and he was like 5 yards to gang, and he almost killed himself. I remember that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
any more comments on YouTube or Facebook? We want to do a rundown.
Yeah. Smitty and Brown were running down the field on every play on silly screens. Sirianni could have taken over. Where's the hot routes? Teams would have hired Kellen as a head coach after he left Dallas. That, as I said, Sirianni, my phone went off, Siri. Teams would have hired Kellen as a head coach after he left Dallas, and they didn't. That was when his stock was the highest. Not true because he's only 35 years old, and he was 33 back then. So he's still young. I mean, people might view him as a head coach in the future, but there's only one Sean McVay who comes to the NFL and gets the head coaching job at 29 years old because they're that smart.
Yeah, he was so young. Like, it's crazy. Like, was he 31? Yeah, I mean, Kellen Moore when he was interviewing too.
It's like 31, yeah.
And it's a what have you done for me lately league. Like, you can literally, every player, every coach can change their entire reputation in one season. Like, that's just the world we live in today.
Mm-hmm.
It's nuts. And also you can screw up your reputation in 1 year. Honestly.
Absolutely. Need an answer on how to beat the blitz. Yeah, just rush.
That's the biggest thing for me. They were so arrogant that that Giants game comes to mind. So the last Giants game, I don't know. It was bad. Like,
well, I mean, you can't blitz if you have no one to cover the blitz. So that's why they're not gonna. Yeah, I mean, that's why we're not going to blitz in because our cornerbacks are complete shit.
No. Speed's talking about the offense.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we'll be fine this year.
Like, they just refused. They refused to pick it up. It was the most asinine thing I've ever seen. They did not want to change their scheme.
Well, that's where you have to blame the quarterback because there's always going to be a man downfield when there's a blitz, and the quarterback, if you're not reading the field correctly, you're not going to get the playoff. So that's where
there was no hot route. They didn't give him a hot route. They didn't give him a slant to throw.
If you're a good quarterback at this level, you can read the field without a fucking hot route and see who's open. Like it's like
Nobody was open yet. They
there
didn't.
was times when Jalen Hurts looked completely blind on the field. Like
No,
he's got to be better
I
this year.
agree, but not
Yeah.
on that play. Like,
Well, I'm
there's
talking in
only so
general.
much you can do. If you're not going to give me an easy throw and you're not going to have
Yeah.
anyone pick up the blitz, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. I mean, I get you, but I don't know. I'm going to be a little bit more critical, I guess. I think Kellen will help a lot with all the pre-snap motion he implements, but I'm not sure about his situational play calling yet. Definitely better than Brian Johnson, but I still think Steichen is a lot better. Yeah, Steichen's a beast, man. Although they missed the playoffs last year, and that was his fault because he had Gardner Minshew throw some stupid ball or lack thereof, and it was a really bad play call, honestly.
I think Steichen is going to be, he was already a good head coach last year. And you're so right about the motion because the Eagles ran the least motion in the league, which is another problem. Like the least, you're totally predictable then.
Yep.
Like, how does that make any sense?
Yeah. I mean, hopefully this year it changes because last year was a complete dog shit.
Well, yeah, you can only go up from here.
Exactly. RB needs to leak out on blitzes. I don't think we're going to have a problem with that this year because we have one of the best running backs in the league to fill the void. So we'll have it right there. Thoughts on Jonathan Gannon? I have none because he's not a Philadelphia Eagle anymore. The tight end needs to find a quick hitch. Yeah, I mean Dallas Goedert. I think he's extremely overrated. I would have went up to get Brock Bowers personally, but whatever. Hopefully he comes to play. He doesn't break a hand again, and we're ready to go. So what is the next topic? We went over two.
The next we're going to talk about James Bradberry because I think this story is going to be picking up a little bit. We touched on this in another pod, but will James Bradberry be cut, especially after our two new draft picks in the secondary? Obviously, we're super excited for them. The biggest thing with Bradberry is the cap and his contract. We gave him a really rich contract after the 2022 season. So if they were to release Bradberry prior to June 1st this year, they would trigger a $15 million dead money cap hit, dead charge. I'm sorry, that would be a 15 dead money charge in addition to costing 10 million against the cap for this season. So most likely that's not going to happen because it's just not smart in a way to lose 10 million. I think he could end up getting traded, but who's going to want to take on that contract? He will definitely be cut somehow next year. But do you think he's going to be on this team this year? I guess that's my question.
Oh, yeah. I think Anthony just nailed it on the head. He's going to be on the team for financial reasons, but he'll be on the bench by week 5. And here's the thing. I actually liked the Bradberry signing at first. I thought the only bad play that he had was in the Super Bowl, honestly, that year. And I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because he did look bad last year, but I still think he has one more solid year left in him because for every good, there is a bad, unfortunately. And I feel like people looked at his bad more than his good. And I just want to see if he has anything left in the tank. I'm not completely out on him yet. I feel like the whole team dissolved last year. So I want to see what we have this year with Cooper DeSean, Quinion Mitchell, James Bradberry, and Darius Slay. I want to see what we have with those guys. And the guy we just got from the Colts, the guy that was suspended for gambling. We have 5 corners.
CJ Gardner-Johnson's going to make a big difference too.
Exactly. So we have 6 players that can make a difference in this league, but it is an offensive.
I don't know about James Bradberry. That can make a difference. But
see, I was just trying to hype him up a little bit, and you're tearing him down. That's awesome.
Yeah, I hope he can be average again. That's all. Yeah. That would be nice. It's such a confidence thing. Like he was picked on, he was torched a lot. And like Speed just said, trade him for a 6th-round pick. I mean, at this point, why not?
I think he's better than a 6th-round pick.
But he's not a future plan. We're paying him so much. You have Quentin Mitchell, you already have Darius Slay. Now you have Cooper DeJean. Like you said, Isaiah Rodgers. We don't know. He's a mystery to me, Isaiah Rodgers. But again, it's either he's not. Do you agree that he's not going to be here past this season if he even makes this team? If he gets traded?
Well, I mean, isn't he signed for 3 years? So this is his second year. So
But
he
I'm saying
might.
they're gonna find a way to get out of that, especially if he's not good again.
Well, it depends on how he plays. If he plays well, he's going to be here, and then we'll have to move on from somebody because you're not going to keep like Joe said, you're not going to keep 10 to 12 D backs or C backs or whatever you want to call. Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how he plays. If he plays well this year, you're going to keep him because of his financial reasons. So you're going to get rid of one piece, and that's going to put us in a tough situation again. So there's probably
even though he's going to be 31.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're acting like 30.
They hate older players.
Yeah, next.
That aren't homegrown draft picks. So, and
Yeah.
it's like you're not gonna start Quentin Mitchell. I mean, you're gonna get rid of Slay or Bradberry. You want your first round pick to start, right?
Usually, a first round pick is a starter. Yes.
Especially next year. There's no way he's not a starter by next year.
But that's the problem I have with the pick. I have no doubts that he can be a great player, but he's from Toledo. So it's like, are you just going to put him out there against NFL talent the first game of the year and just expect them to shut down the best players? Like, I don't know yet. I got to see him at least in the preseason, like at least to see what he's got.
Well, I guess Slay should still be CB1, right?
Mm-hmm. For now.
Also, we re-signed Avonte Maddox, who we all like, but he just can't stay healthy. But it's nice to have his flexibility, but we know he can't stay healthy.
No.
But again, we also have him in the slot. So
yeah, I'm gonna get on this one real quick. If Hurts sucks again, do you think they'll go for another quarterback? No, not yet because they're paying him so much and it's all backloaded. But they were Cowie would try to work something. So I don't know.
He also,
really
he didn't suck, which I know you're very critical. But I go back to that Bills game, put the team on his back. Was one of his best moments. He was great in the Miami game. I don't know. I just don't. Again, there was something going on in the locker room. I admit he'd not pick up. He could not read the field. He was really bad during times last season. He looked like a rookie out there, especially with reading the field. But yeah, that's why we have a new coordinator, Kellen Moore. Like he needs to bring him back to a Pro Bowl, All Pro level, and I have the faith that it will happen. Because he's talented. He's very talented. I mean, unless you're saying he's like Cam Newton, which like is he a running back? Like, to be honest, is he Cam Newton or is he Lamar Jackson? That's what we're gonna find out this season.
Neither. I mean, I feel like he's more of a. All right, so hear me out on this one. I think he's more of a. I don't know, man. I don't want to be disrespectful. I was gonna say Byron Leftwich, but better. Maybe a Tyrod Taylor, but better.
You're crazy. That is like, would you just forget 2022 entirely?
The whole team was great. I mean, if you put a quarterback on that team with a good offensive line, they would move the ball.
He needs to get his
confidence. Listen, I'm not here to bash Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is our quarterback. I'm not here to bash.
And he should have. He was going to be MVP. Like, was Byron Leftwich ever Tyrod Taylor ever?
He's an offensive coordinator though, or he was.
What'd you say?
He's an offensive coordinator though.
No, I said like were Byron Leftwich or Tyrod Taylor ever in the MVP conversation?
No, they definitely weren't.
Your takes are wild today.
No, I'm just saying I'm not saying that he is those guys. I'm saying I would compare him to those guys, but at a better level.
So you don't think he's closer to Cam Newton and Lamar Jackson? You think he's closer to a Byron Leftwich and a Tyrod Taylor?
I can't compare him to Lamar Jackson because Jalen Hurts wins more. And Lamar Jackson always loses in big moments. And Lamar Jackson always uses his feet more than his arm. Jalen Hurts kind of balances things out. So I'm trying to find the more respectable quarterback to compare him to. And Cam Newton, I never liked Cam Newton. Cam Newton had that 115 in 1 year and lost the Super Bowl without fumbling on the ball, diving on the ball that he fumbled. So I never liked his play. I'm trying to find the right guy to compare him to.
All right. Well, Lamar Jackson made the AFC Championship game. Cam made the Super Bowl. Tyrod Taylor and Byron Leftwich, they never even made the playoffs.
I'm trying to say a better Byron Leftwich or Tyrod Taylor. I'm not saying that he's them. I'm saying that he's their style of play, but better. That's what I'm trying to say.
I don't know. I just wouldn't even put him in I wouldn't put him in the stratosphere with them. All right, is he he's 10 times better than them, you should say.
Yeah, my friend just texted me. He's like, Byron Leftwich, I just spit out my water.
Yeah,
thanks. Yeah, because my friend
you're on an island with that one.
Yeah, I guess.
I think with the Cam Newton, because the comparison, Cam has the most rushing touchdowns.
That's a good one. Colin Kaepernick. That's a good one. Kind of.
Yeah, I would agree. Obviously, Colin's probably a little bit more athletic and just faster.
Yeah.
But I mean, would you say Hurts has a better arm? I don't know.
No. I think Colin Kaepernick had a better arm. Yeah, Colin Kaepernick definitely had a better arm because he threw a fastball 92 miles an hour in baseball. He definitely had a better arm than Hurts did.
Yeah. I mean, I guess obviously we would just say that Hurts is a better leader. And, we also forget how young Hurts is. I guess I don't want to be controversial here, but just a winner, again, not a me player, at least outwardly mindset where, Colin Kaepernick, we learned had that.
There you go. Bro, he got outplayed by Taylor, who had a lesser team.
You're talking about the Giants game?
Yeah.
Well, you're just saying in the middle of the collapse, I just throw that season out. Everybody was bad.
True.
So you can't have it both ways.
Fair. But you know what's funny about this? We didn't even have Hurts on the agenda today. This is a fun show.
I mean, start talking about last year. He's definitely going to come up for sure.
Exactly.
All right, last few topics. Sorry, go ahead.
My friend said he's Dante Culpepper.
Might as well just call him McNabb at this point, right?
True. A McNabb 2.0.
Yeah. Maybe that is the best comparison.
McNabb 2.0, better?
I wouldn't say better. I'm not going to go that far.
I mean, he doesn't kill worms in the ground, so that's
just say similar. Yeah, I would say similar player, almost identical careers. Not identical, but similar careers so far, I would say. Last thing I want to say about this topic, really, about last season, just to wrap this up and the coaching and everything. Eagles are the only team in 35 years to begin a season 10-1 or better and finish the season with 5 or more losses.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty bad. And we brought back our head coach.
Exactly. So again, that's my biggest concern. And if it's bad, we need some. I don't know. I think if it's bad, we're gonna lose a lot of respect and be just very, very shocked and disappointed and angry and mad that you could have got rid of this guy last year.
Yeah, literally, it's a wasted year.
Exactly. And so what did you see? Were you literally just because he made the playoffs 3 years, we can't do it? Is that the only reason why?
Yep.
So even though we saw Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox before they retired, they gave their endorsement for Sirianni. But they're legacy players. They're really gonna say some negative shit on their way out. Oh, we hate that guy. Or that, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
So moving on, there was an ESPN report. Not sure how accurate this is, but they said that the Eagles are likely to have Cooper DeJean play outside corner to start his career. Obviously, we touched on this. I think it might have been last week, just the white cornerback stereotype and where Cooper DeJean is actually going to play, I honestly thought he would end up at safety. But, after reading this report, hearing about it, understanding his talent and mindset, he's also taller than I thought he was. And if you look at pictures of him, he looks short. I don't know if you. So that's kind of a little confusing to me, but I think he's like 6'2" or 6'1".
He did dunk a basketball at like it looked
But
like nothing.
he looks super young.
He's 6'1", just turned 21 years old.
Like if you go on his Instagram, there's like a picture of him at like some golf tournament. Like he looks young and short. So I guess that's the only reason why I was like a little confused. Obviously, he's extremely talented, extremely athletic. He has that dog in him, in quotes.
Yeah.
So I would love to see it. I would love to see him play outside corner. Obviously, odds are and history is against him for sure. What are your opinions? Is that setting him up for failure or no?
I think it's just talk. I don't think they're going to play him outside. I think they're trying to have the Green Bay Packers catch them off guard because they always do this shit. I think he's more of a utility piece than anything. I don't think he's going to have a set position in the beginning of the year. If anything, I think they'll put Mitchell on the outside and they'll put Slay on the outside. And then on the inside, they'll try to work something out. But I don't think you're going to put Cooper DeJean over Quinyon Mitchell on the outside or Cooper DeJean over Darius Slay on the outside. So I think he's going to be a chess piece, in my opinion, to start the year, especially when you're picking him in the second round and not the first round. You're going to value your talent a little bit more. Plus, we actually have a lot of depth at cornerback now. So I definitely do not see him starting on the outside now.
Maybe the inside. I think that's maybe where he practiced during mini camps or OTAs last week.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it also could be, we know how the Eagles are. They're super secretive. They're like competitive advantage, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So you might be onto something there.
Mm-hmm.
And then our last topic of the day. Obviously this was a little bit bigger deal. It kind of got lost with all the coordinators speaking, and now this, the whole Chip Kelly, DeSean and McCoy and DeSean Jackson, LeSean McCoy, Chip Kelly podcast. But Howie was continuing to make moves. I don't know if you saw, he signed another international player. I think they might have brought in another O lineman, a tight end, these kind of like, random, very unknown players. But he's still out there making moves and trying to find the next Jordan Mailata, trying to find the next diamond in the rough, which is, go for it. He doesn't sleep, which, we're very grateful for as fans, that we have a GM that's just obsessed with his job, obsessed with this team, obsessed with tweaking and trying to find the best roster. And the year we won the Super Bowl, we had the most depth. We left no stone unturned. Nope. The depth that we had on that team, the fact that we had 7 injured starters and had people to replace all of them was crazy. So I'm sure that's his mindset to try and do that again, which I love. And how much do you think the Cowboys wish they had that right now? Because we know Cowboys.
I don't think it would really matter if the Cowboys had that or not, because they don't have a quarterback. So if you don't have a quarterback and you don't have a backup quarterback that could win you games without that quarterback, you got nothing. So it doesn't really matter.
You're saying like Dak as far as the playoffs.
I think Dak's a good quarterback. He's not a Super Bowl contending quarterback to where he can win in the biggest moments. And I think he's proved that time and time again.
Yeah, I think he's like Kirk Cousins, very similar, right?
I think Kirk Cousins might ball out on Atlanta. I'm not saying he will win the Super Bowl, but I think he'll bring that team up to what they were a couple of years ago, and then they'll switch over to Michael Penix next year.
I think that's just a shitstorm. They should have never did that. They should have never did that, because we have to look at the human element. The players asking questions, Kirk Cousins feeling weird, him probably feeling intimidated, like, all right, I'm a pro now. People are already saying this about me in the media. This is the perception. So that's a lot. That's a lot to overcome. It really,
Hey,
really is.
hey, at least Kyle Pitts will finally have a good year now.
Yeah, I just don't see that unless Kirk, like you said, Kirk just balls out and
Yep.
there's no questions asked. But I hate it. I hate that they did that.
Well, at this point, they would need him to ball out for them to get a trading partner if they wanted Penix next year. So I don't know why they did it either. That's literally the definition of best player available. I just don't know why they did it. But they're the Falcons.
Yeah, it's a shame. And I kind of feel bad for Kirk because I think he's from that area. He was really excited to be there. These people move their families places. It's a very like underrated part. So it's kind of like a slap in the face. And it's not like, he's a decent, talented quarterback. It's not like it's someone with question marks. Yeah, he had the injury, but I don't know. It sucks. It's really, he probably feels so betrayed and like, what the hell? I can't trust anything these guys say. They're fake as hell,
He'll
right?
be all right. He signed a 4-year, $180 million contract. He'll be all right.
Yeah, he got his money, I guess, but
Yeah, that's what, 45 a year? No, wait, a little less than that. It's a lot of money. Holy hell. Yeah, 45 a year. A lot.
Oh my god! And like, was it 100 million guaranteed?
Yeah, so I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, he can get a house everywhere, right?
Yeah, he'll be like, oh, I had to sell my house in Florida. Wait, no, not that Florida. Like he's that rich.
No, I get it. All right, man. Well, do you have anything else before we log off and get out of here?
No, honestly, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in on this Friday edition, and from now on, it's going to be Fridays. We figured out that the best time to do this is 2 p.m. on Fridays. Everyone watches. Thank you for the people that tuned in, and we're going to be here every single week at 2 or 2:15. We're going to try to keep it around that time frame. And we're here to bring you the most realistic, the most truthful, the most honest Eagles content available, and we're here to smash it up. So, thank you for tuning in. And you have anything else to say?
I was gonna say, I completely agree. Love doing the pod with you. I also appreciate all the comments today. It was fun interacting with all the viewers.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like we said, it's just gonna get better and better the closer we get to training camp and the season. A lot to be determined, but yeah, can't wait for next week already, guys.
Oh, absolutely. It'll be here like that. So we'll be back. With that said, we are out of here. Have a great rest of your day. I know it's like bar weather outside, but if you're not into drinking, just go to sleep. Honestly, it's not even worth going out today. It's like 50 degrees out. The warm weather's upon us. I just don't know when. Memorial Day is almost here, so that'll be fun. But anyway, guys, have a blessed Eagles day.